I always feel slightly fraudulent whenever you come to speak at launching something, but I don't have a ribbon to cut or a button to press to say this is now going. But it is, I think, something that's incredibly important for the council. And it is a new approach in the way that we deal with businesses and the way that we interface with the business community in Wandsworth. It's something that I hope you will all feel is a positive step forward by the council, and something that I hope you all engage in, whether as a member at some stage, and there already are some people who are involved, or whether you're just inputting into some of the channels of communication that I'll talk about a little bit later. The first thing I would hope is that everyone in this room is proud of Wandsworth. You are here as a business that's set up in Wandsworth. Many of you will also be residents. And for whatever reason, you've come here. When we look at the building blocks, the things that make up Wandsworth, we can point to a number of things. You can point perhaps to its location. It was highlighted earlier that we're a very, very short distance from central London. We have miles of river frontage. We have acres and acres of green parkland. We are, I think, in terms of the geography, the envy of pretty much any other inner London borough. We have a highly educated population. But I think one of the important things that we mustn't forget is that we have a very vibrant, a very diverse, and an incredibly economically powerful business community. The latest statistics from the Department of Business suggest that there are in excess of 12,500 businesses within Wandsworth. Most of those tend towards the smaller end of the scale. Over 10,000 of them have fewer than 10 employees, the bulk of those having fewer than 5. But that then comes up in the next statistic, that 70,000 jobs are created by those businesses. 70,000 people, not all of whom will live in Wandsworth, admittedly, but 70,000 people's income is reliant upon the jobs, the prosperity that are created by the people who are like all the people sat in this room, who are creating the work, creating the powerful economy that Wandsworth can boast. And that obviously is set to grow. We've heard already today that we'll be looking at 20 to 25,000 jobs being created on the Nine Elms site. That's not being created by the NHS, it's not being created by the council, it's being created by the businesses that are going to be setting up in the developments that take place there. It's an incredibly exciting time, and I want the business community to be fully engaged in it. And it's a 24-hour business economy here. We'll all be going on afterwards, hopefully boosting the nighttime economy by having a few drinks upstairs in the bar. But as we're doing that, people will be starting to work in Nine Elms, which is one of the biggest employment areas within the borough. There they'll be providing, they'll be preparing the food that goes onto the restaurants in central London and in Wandsworth, which some of you will be eating, possibly if you go to one of the local pubs here throughout the day and into the evening. It goes from morning to night. The economy in Wandsworth never stands still. And it's something that is at the very heart of our community. When, during the previous year, we started having a number of street parties, very often what we found is that, yes, residents were the ones who were saying, let's organise this, let's have something great for our street. But also, businesses were the ones saying, we want to be the heart of our community, we want to put something on, we want to get together and stage an event so everyone who lives around here can come together. One of the most successful, I think, by far, was the street party organised for the royal wedding, organised by Battersea High Street. Thousands of people came along. The BBC came along to cover it because it was such a remarkable event in London. And that was done because of the businesses and because of the importance they placed on the community. And one thing I want to also stress is that the pictures may give the idea that I'm looking possibly at retail, and we're very, very focused on retail. One of the problems with that is, of course, when it comes to doing a presentation, retail is actually a very, very easy thing to take photos of. This is a sort of elevated view of Clapham Junction, and obviously it has that retail frontage at the ground level. But as soon as you go above it, we start seeing the different types of businesses that exist and have thrived within Wandsworth. There's the headquarters of a national retail chain situated in those upper floors. There's a gym, there's solicitors, there's dentists, and I challenge any of you to find an attractive photo of a dentist working to display on here. But we recognise there is a very, very diverse, very, very strong business sector there that's providing services, not just goods through shops, but also services to residents and to other businesses within Wandsworth and the wider London region. So how does Wandsworth see itself fitting in there? How do we communicate with businesses? Well, one of the things I try to do is to sort of jot down all those relationships that we have with businesses, the way we communicate with them. The first one is probably quite obvious. The Wandsworth Business Forum, we're all here, and you've got a few people from the council and elsewhere at an event, telling you about things, mingling with you afterwards, and people the council have invited along to tell you things that you may, and hopefully did, find useful. We've got plenty of local business associations, and it very quickly became apparent that the relationships we have with those are so numerous we couldn't possibly begin to comprehensively list them all. But pretty much every area of Wandsworth will have a number of business associations who will have contacts with the Economic Development Office in the council. We have ad hoc consultations. Obviously, when things happen, businesses tend to be a recipient of that consultation along with the residents. Sometimes the business view isn't heard strongly enough, possibly. We have the existing relationships, people. Many of you may have benefited, for example, from the Town Centre Improvement Scheme and know people within the Economic Development Office as a result. And those lines of communications remain open and are valuable for us. We have a business support network, goes on. Business improvement districts, where actually one of our former members of staff is now a board member. We have the Town Centre Partnerships, which have been invaluable in creating the 5 diverse town centres that we have within Wandsworth. We have the Chamber of Commerce, who have been co-hosts of this evening. And finally, we have been running a regular business survey where we try and gauge the feelings of businesses throughout the borough. But one thing you'll notice when you look at all of those together is that not a single one of them covers the whole borough. Not a single one of them really works on a strategic level. And that's the gap that we've been thinking needs plugging. And we've been thinking about it for quite a while now. It's something we've been wrestling with. There is a body called the Local Strategic Partnership with Business Membership, but that never quite works because the issues it was discussing very often tended not to be the ones that really concern businesses. So we came up with the Wandsworth Business Partnership. Now, the Wandsworth Business Partnership is intended to fulfil one single aim. It is to be the strategic voice of business within Wandsworth. It is the body which we hope we can talk to, we can consult with, who can tell us when we're doing things well, but more importantly, possibly when we're not doing things so well, and when there are things we may want to reconsider for the business community to make their lives a little bit easier. So it's strategic, and I think the other important thing is that it's going to be business-led. During the phase of establishing it, I have been acting as the chairman of it. I'm very, very hopeful that in about 6 days' time, I will no longer be a chairman. I'll still turn up, possibly to be bullied by the businesses who are at the meeting, and I will still be there representing the council, but it will be a business-led organisation that is representing the businesses of the community. And it's already identified 5 key priorities that it wants to look at. You may think that these are wrong, and in which case you may want to let us know. The first one are the opportunities that arise from the localisation of business rates. Many of you know that now the council will not just be the debt collector. We'll no longer just take the money from you and then hand it over to the government. Actually, we'll be taking that money and keeping it. A key part of our business now is not just taking the council tax and setting the council tax level, but also looking at the business rates and thinking, how do we actually serve the people who are paying us a huge amount of money every single year to run what we like to think and what we hope is a very, very good council. It will be looking at inward investment and how the council and businesses and everyone else within the economy can work to make sure as much investment comes into Wandsworth and doesn't go elsewhere as possible, to make sure that we're giving the best of any opportunities that may present themselves out there. It'll be looking at employment space and business space, because Wandsworth is a fairly densely packed borough. There isn't a huge amount of space there, and it's important that whenever areas are developed, it doesn't just create new residential property, but it also creates new business and commercial space. We'll be looking at the old chestnut of parking, because many businesses feel that parking is an issue that affects them very, very deeply. Not just because they're possibly a shop and they feel that ease of parking is very, very important to people who may want to come and shop with them. But we also recognise many businesses provide services that require them to be able to get out and about, to be able to park up, and to have the flexibility to visit people across the borough on a regular basis. And then finally, and it brings us very nicely, I think, to the last bit, is communication. One of the things that the businesses who were involved in setting it up identified very early is that the council isn't always great at communicating. This isn't because of a lack of will, this isn't because of a malice, but because the council is, by definition, a large bureaucracy. It has to deal with a number of people, and sometimes the people who are doing that work aren't always as well attuned to the needs of businesses as they might be. Although there are 12,000 businesses, there are nearly 300,000 residents in the borough. And if your day-to-day job is 5 days a week, and then 6 hours on day 5, 4 days a week and then 6 hours on day 5 talking to residents, when does that 1 hour of business at the end you sometimes perhaps don't understand the unique needs, unique desires, and the unique will of businesses who want to succeed and don't always have the patience to deal with a council bureaucracy. So, one of the things that we're launching as well is our LinkedIn group. If any of you are on LinkedIn, just go into the groups bit and do a search for Wandsworth Business Partnership. There are a number of questions, and we're very, very interested in getting feedback from anyone who's involved in the business community in Wandsworth on what the council can do better, and what the council also does well already. There are prizes available for people who join and contribute, although I would hope that the incentive of being able to improve the service you get from the council is enough there to begin with. And also now we're going to move into the final question and answer stage. Some of you have already been taking part in this, and you'll have noticed the tweets across the bottom. But there is a hashtag, WandBiz. If you have a question for any of the people who were speaking this evening, put it in a tweet, add the hashtag to it. It will be highlighted up there, and then it will come down on the screen here, and it will be put to a member of the panel. And if you're not on Twitter, but you have a mobile phone, which I imagine is pretty much everyone in this room, simply text it to the number displayed up there. And again, it should go through the same process. It will go up there and then be highlighted on the screen down here for me to put to members of the panel. So that's with me now, just to say thank you very much for listening to the speakers. Hopefully, while I've been talking, some more questions have been coming along, but don't feel afraid to put them in. And I'll put them to members of the panel. Thank you.